Sunday, November 26th, and the Dome Foamers podcast is back, episode 30. I'm your host, Christian Kruger, and as always, I'm here with Neil Mieski and Brian Dorton, and we are just lifelong Astros fans who love to talk about the Astros and college football. So, boys, let's go. All right. So we've been doing this podcast since our first one. Episode 1 was published May 1st. And for the first time, we took the holiday off from travel for friends and family. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope they enjoyed it. Hope you got to spend time with your families. And here we are. We're back with episode 30. Boys, it's good to see us back on the podcast. How's everyone doing?
Man,
all good,
excellent.
man.
Stuffed.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Stuffed like a turkey.
Well, good. I hope you guys used some Two Gringos as our title sponsor. Two Gringos is giving away the fan favorites pack every week. So we will have something on social media, but you can find the fan favorites pack that has 5 different seasons and rub and alls at twogringos.com. That's the number 2. twogringoschupacabra.com. That's the number 2, gringoschupacabra.com. And if you go there, you can use the code DOME15 for 15% off. So they know you're listening to the podcast, and you can be in a drawing and selection for the fan favorites pack. And even if you don't get it, you can go there and use some stocking stuffers and so forth. They've got great stuff there that you can find them at your local grocery store and so forth. But shop online. And support the good people there that are a title sponsor. All right, we're going to talk first a little, just some Astros rumors that are out there in a downtime, and then we're going to move on to college football. So I know we stated a couple weeks ago that, Jake Myers was probably going to be on the block. Well, he is on the block. I wouldn't expect there to be anything until January or February when free agent signings happen and people realize they need a center fielder. I think the Astros will go after arms for that, probably bullpen arms. So, I think that's a pretty safe bet. We predicted that on this podcast 2-3 weeks ago. Not a shock. There is some other rumors out there of, look, some things have legs on the internet. Some things don't. Most things don't. And as we were getting on to record this podcast, we were talking about the Bregman to the Yankees rumor out there because he has 1-year control. The Astros are not trading Bregman to the Yankees, in my opinion. That's just not going to happen. They would have to have the sweetest of sweet deals. And the issue more than that, the fact that it's the Yankees, is the Astros have no one in their farm system to play third base.
Who's stepping up there? Nobody.
Right.
There's no one ready.
And not to mention the fact that we are in line to compete again for American League Championship / World Series, and there's no there's no better person historically than Bregman with the Astros through all of it. That's been a major piece to it. So I just don't see that thing has any validity whatsoever. Not at this point. Now, if we get mid-season and things aren't going very well and we're not in contention, could we trade Bregman to at least get something for him, since odds are we're not going to sign him? Possible.
Yeah, that's possible.
I'm not saying that's likely, but we've seen a lot of talent walk away and get nothing in return. Well, it's because we're always in contention. You go back to Springer and Cole and Correa. We're not getting anything, and they're walking out the door, and we're not getting anything other than banners.
Yeah.
And so you're not trading those guys at that time. So again, if I don't see any chance that any of that is true.
Well, yeah. So that's all. I don't think it's that far fetched to explore trading him because of our payroll situation. He would immediately knock off $29 million. I just don't think it's going to be potential. Well, no, this year is $29 million.
I'm saying, like, it doesn't mean that we would lose 29 million.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, pay some of it. Yeah, but it would be payroll relief. But it would it wouldn't be the Yankees because we're just not going to help them. But it would be to someone that has a third baseman in their farm that's ready to go. Right. That would have to be a trade piece, and I don't know who that is. You know, it would have to be someone that's got a stud third baseman right now, and then has someone in waiting that, you know, that's kind of blocked. And I mean, I don't know all the teams. I will say, when I did see that rumor, I immediately thought of the Orioles because they have payroll. They have tons of payroll options, you know, room, I should say, and they have a ton of prospects. Now, they got a bunch of guys who can play short, second, and third. So I don't know. It would be someone that they probably think would be blocked eventually, but I don't have all those names.
Yeah. God, I'd hate that.
Yeah, you don't want to help them out either. Like if you do trade them, it's probably to a National League team that has a third baseman ready to go.
Right.
But I don't see that happening. I just don't. But that's kind of, you know, 2 weeks ago we talked about creativity. They're going to have to get creative on the payroll. They're just going to have to.
Yeah, I agree.
To have room. Is there any other Astros related topics in this downtime of the off season that y'all want to bring up?
I mean, nothing that aren't just straight rumors, you know?
Okay. Let's move on to, you know, it's the hot topic. It's college football. We've got championship week, and we've got content, and that is this weekend. And recording this on a Sunday night, it has been reported by almost everybody that Mike Elko will be the new A&M football coach.
Yeah.
This is after last night, everyone almost reporting that Mark Stoops was going to be the A&M football coach.
It's my debacle.
Yeah, it's my understanding that Ross Bjork, the AD, went rogue, and his buddies are close friends with Mark Stoops. He took it back to the boosters and board of regents, and they said, "The hell you are." That's not going to happen. And that was leaked, and there was outrage, which honestly, I kind of, Mark Stoops is no, that's not a fit. He was 35 and 55 in the SEC. So people are going to say Elko doesn't have the skins on the wall. He doesn't, but he's done a good job at Duke. He's been at A&M, was a hell of a DC at A&M. He's an up-and-comer. He knows the landscape. He knows the AD. He knows the A&M way that they do things. He's probably going to keep Elijah Robinson, the interim head coach, who's a hell of a recruiter.
Yep.
I think his coaching development can be in question, but recruiting cannot. And the players love him. It makes total sense. I think 3 weeks ago when this came down, or 2 weeks ago with Jimbo, I think we said that it was probably going to be Elko or Traylor. And here we are with Elko, because it makes sense. So I'm going to go to our resident Aggie first. I was just trying to have everyone know what the landscape is right now currently, and then we'll talk about some other things. But Dorton, how do you feel about everything that went on the last 24 hours?
I think you nailed it all. But man, what an absolute debacle last night was in terms of Aggie football. I've never seen something blow up so quickly as I did last night, you know. And I think it started with, you know, probably a half dozen or so texts, which then led to you know, a bunch of people sharing, you know, Twitter, anything from Twitter with this. And it was, you know, like my first response was, you've got to be kidding me.
Right.
Like, why are Mike Stoops from Kentucky? Mark Stoops from Kentucky, right? Yeah. Like, that was, you know, I watched that game against Louisville yesterday, and had UK on my pick'em, but I don't care about that very much, and I certainly don't care that that they won and that it was a heck of a coaching battle, because it was not. And I don't know, it was entertaining to say the least. More so this morning, waking up, that all of it was just a big oopsie, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, possibly oopsie, but these are just this is absolute conjecture that I've heard or that I've read along the lines of what Kruger said about, I think this is Bjork going rogue. Also, I think these are boosters and probably some board of regents and seats in there that accidentally leaked this info. Just dang well knowing exactly how this is going to end, and it ended exactly the way they thought it was going to end. And frankly, it was the right move. Like, got it out into the open as opposed to, trying to set a deal, under, kind of late at night under the table. I did think that Stoops, his statement was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And it was straight up pandering back to no.
100%.
I never wanted never wanted to do that.
He
wanted to make that happen.
He was booking flight itinerary to College Station.
I think I have a feeling he sent those texts in the air as it was turning around.
I mean, basketball school, they do pay him well, which is a little interesting, which it'll be interesting to see what comes out with Elko. But that was no. Look, I'm not, by no means am I an A&M expert. Everything filters through social media and people we know and so forth. Ross Bjork's job is on the line. Like, like
if he doesn't already have his bags packed, he probably should, just to make sure that he doesn't leave anything behind.
And there's one person that can save him, and that's Mike Elko. That's the only person that can save him. Yeah. Because right or wrong, he'll be tagged with his hire. And he is the AD, so he should. But enough about that. I mean, I don't know, man. There's times I hear Bjork speak, I'm like, man, I like that. And there's times I hear speak, I'm like, dude, you're so far out of left field. Like, what? Yeah. Again, that's the role. It's obvious he got put in his place. And my only question for you, Dorton, is it seems like this could have been done 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So the end all be all is, I mean, again, unless some other terrible curveball comes in the middle of tonight,
right?
I think that Elko's the right call. I mean, I think he's an incredible coach. I think I think after the Miami game, I was immediately all on board the Mike Elko train. At some point, I didn't think it was going to be right now, but at some point, like, let's get him back. Let's insert him into the HC position and let's build around it.
So is there anybody that you would have preferred?
No, he was my number. Not that I have any say over it, but he was my number one and has been for some time.
I think he's the right fit because he's been there and he was successful there as the DC. The problem is everyone, and look, this happened with Texas 3 years ago, and we'll get into that. There's this wish list out there. Most of the time, those guys just need to be scratched off. They're either too costly, they're not leaving, they're going to leverage that for more money where they are. I mean, like the Dan Lanning thing was a complete joke. He was never leaving, and Oregon was never going to. Yeah, so from realistic candidates, I mean, again, we said it. Elko or Trailer. And Elko's a little, in my opinion, has more experience at the DC level, and then at Duke. I think Trailer is a hell of a football coach. Obviously, with my ties, to Texas high school football coaches, and Neil being Texas high school football coach, he was going to recruit his butt off. But it's just not as important as it used to be with NIL. And
Yep.
Elko knows that landscape. Look, he's got to prove things too, just like what went on in Austin.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone loved the Sark hire, but he still had to prove himself. And frankly, there's no trophy case that's been filled yet. That starts next Saturday. So we'll get in that in a minute. But, I think it's a safe hire. I think it's the right move. And that's just for me being an outsider. It just makes a ton of sense.
I love that the idea of E-Rob coming right back into and being in the defensive coordinator role, and
he's going to be he's going to be the defensive coordinator in name only for the promotion.
Well, yeah,
I mean, Elko's going to be the calling the plays.
Elko is the guy, but
they're keeping him for recruiting and to keep the defensive side from hitting the portal.
But the fact that we're not dismissing him outright I think is the move, is the right move.
Yep.
Yeah.
And would you think there is a majority of Aggie fans that are good with this, or do you think that there's a good contingent that is? I mean, because again, I'm sitting here saying this is one of the top jobs in the SEC. Now that may be a stretch, but this is a legitimate. I mean, all the bells and whistles are there.
You bet. I mean, else? But I mean, are you talking about getting a big name, right?
I'm just saying, I'm asking,
else. In my opinion,
are the Aggie faithful? I mean, are they good with this? Do you think that most of the Aggies are saying this is the best thing? I mean, we're excited. I mean, because when you go back to when they hired Jimbo Fisher, there was a lot of, I mean, holy crap, we've got Jimbo Fisher coming here.
Yeah.
It's not the buzz of Elko.
Yeah.
But so that's what I'm asking. How does the normal Aggie fan feel about this?
I mean, I think the normal, depending on how long they've been an Aggie fan, they're so shell shocked from the whiplash of back and forth that they're whatever. If anything's better than what we've been doing, so let's change it up.
I can't stand, and Neil, you make a great point. I can't stand that buzz stuff. Because you know what that buzz stuff means?
You're paying $76 million.
Not a damn thing. Yeah, how'd that work out for him?
I know.
Go get a fit. Go get a coach, a ball coach. Go get someone that's going to galvanize the student athletes there and the fan base. I don't. We said this before we started the podcast. I think it's a good move. I'm not going to tag great or horrible because we don't know until we know. Sure. I do think it's a good move.
And it could be
his biggest hire. Sure. And his biggest hire after keeping Elijah Robinson there is who his OC is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he's not going to have anything to do with it. Yeah, absolutely. It's just what happened in Austin 3 years ago, but reversed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, Sark, I kind of like what he does. I like the fact he's been at Bama. I like the fact he's been in the NFL. He's got experience at Washington, USC. He had his demons, right? So there's some questions there. But guess what? Tell me who the DC is going to be. Right. I understand. I felt like the offense is going to be okay. Just like the defense is going to be really good at A&M. It's going to be good because Elko's a good defensive coach. It's really about who his offensive coordinator is going to be now.
And I think, I mean, yeah.
Neil, it's so much on these deals is about fit. It's not, it's fit. And I think
if you can get if you can get a guy that's grounded and, hungry and, I mean, that's all, everything you're saying is the fit because, and again, Jimbo, I don't know. I mean, there's probably a laundry list of things that didn't work out or why they didn't work out, but this just has such a different feel, and that's what I was trying to gauge from with you, Brian. Just
Yeah.
it's so different than the last one, and
Yeah.
the last one obviously didn't pan out the way everybody wanted, and so why not? Why not? Go with the guy that it has some familiarity, has some experience, albeit at Duke. But I mean, and you're talking about leading a Duke program versus leading Texas A&M, two different worlds, obviously.
Yep.
Absolutely.
But there's some familiarity in College Station,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
maybe at that point this is what they're looking for. And yeah, I mean, time will tell whether this is good or not.
Yep. And I mean, we'll see. I'm sure we'll see. We'll see a fair amount of portal moves. I mean, Max Johnson's
Sure.
already gone, and we'll see a fair amount. But I mean, we were that was going to happen regardless. I think even if they didn't make a move on Jimbo, I think that was happening.
Right.
Kids were upset, players were upset. Like it's not. Things aren't rosy in College Station, right now.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, and you just didn't hear a lot of players up in arms when Jimbo left, or I didn't, anyways.
No.
There wasn't a lot of what's going on. That's the wrong move, that kind of stuff. So
there was a lot of defiance when he left.
Sure.
we're gonna do X, Y, and Z in defiance of
right.
this
so
guy that we were fans
Can
of.
you can real quick, and then we'll move on to some other coaching stuff, coaching firings and hirings. Can you imagine the pressure on Elko this time next year when it's Texas rolling into Kyle Field?
Yeah.
I mean, just the pressure that's on that guy. I mean, that dude, please make that a night game. Please.
On Thursday,
I don't know.
please. On Thursday, please.
Well, yeah, that's how it used to be, right? I was talking about, being home Thanksgiving. I was talking to my dad. My dad, before our time, because I remember going that game on Thursday night, and then I remember going that game on Fridays, right? Mm-hmm. Before our time, it was on Thursday day. My dad used to go to that game with his dad, and it was Thursday in the afternoon. I was like, what? He's like, oh yeah, because I remember being in DKR. I remember being in Kyle Field on Thursday nights. I remember one time in DKR it was sleeting. I remember one time, I don't know how it was in Kyle Field, and it was basically small snowflakes coming down. Now, I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I've also been in both those places when it's been 4,000 degrees, but
85 degrees.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving
but I
Day.
mean, I would love to bump the Egg Bowl out of there, Dorton, like you said, and make it Thanksgiving night. It just seems right. I mean, there's a whole generation that's never even seen it on, not much less the game, but not it being on Thanksgiving night. I remember when we didn't go to the games. I remember Ron Franklin calling the game on ESPN Thanksgiving night.
Yeah, I mean, this past week watching all of these rivalry games, and that's all I can think of is next year. How just the state of Texas.
It's just different. It's just rivalry games are just different. It's not A&M playing Missouri. It's not Texas playing Iowa State. It's just different. Yeah. And there's not a bigger state, as we well know, in this state. And that game is going to, oh my gosh, it's going to be magnificent. I cannot wait.
Yeah,
the place Kyle Field will be exploding.
Explosive.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
What a wild, fun atmosphere.
Yeah, I will. I cannot wait. All right, let's move on to a couple of tidbits. So, for the UH Cougs out there, since we have an Astros podcast following, they get rid of Dana Holgerson. I have no ties here other than thank God it was time.
Oh boy.
this was reported earlier. So I'm not going to try to act like I'm stealing this. I saw this on Football Scoop, but I did immediately think of this when he was fired. They should hire Gary Patterson yesterday. I mean, talk about someone that doesn't necessarily need to make it a stepping stone job like the past 7 coaches have. He would probably be content and happy there, and he's a hell of a ball coach. So I don't know if that's where they're going to go. Football Scoop did say that he's in the running.
I've also seen Trailer in the running there.
Sure. I just don't think he's going to take that job.
I'm not sure it's better right now.
I know.
I'm not sure. I mean, the history, yes, but time will tell.
You know, another thing about Gary Patterson other than being a ball coach is guess what his buyout is for the school that he's coaching at?
0.
0.0. He's just someone that he would at least get them respectable. He would.
Correct.
And he would, after a year or two, he would beat people that's his history. He beats people he's not supposed to.
Yeah.
I've seen it plenty.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll see.
I agree.
Supposedly Neil's wearing his Pride and Joy Texas State shirt. Supposedly GJ Kinney's got them bowl eligible, and supposedly he wants the Baylor job. And that's because his dad played at Baylor.
Oh, yep.
And Baylor's staying with Aranda for 1 more year, firing their coordinators again. That's not going to end well. So
no.
I could see that. Going that direction, but he's done a really good job at Texas State. My oldest went to the Texas State game last night because they got to run out before the game as a kind of a community deal. So they invited all the area middle school kids to come. That was pretty cool. So that's all. I mean, Jeff Levy, who is Art Briles' son-in-law, who was the offensive coordinator at OU, is going to be the next head coach at Mississippi State.
Yeah, they offloaded some liability there.
And Mississippi State just doesn't care. So it'll be interesting to see what OU does there. And then
you're right, they don't care.
No, they do not.
Whatever.
Next.
I think it's kind of unfortunate that Michigan State hires who I think is a good football coach from his alma mater because they have no conference and Michigan State does. That's kind of the state of college football we're at, where the guy leaves his alma mater to go to the Big Ten. But I think it is a good hire. Jonathan Smith is that guy's name. Anything else out there that y'all want to discuss before we kind of talk playoff scenarios?
Not coaching wise, but I think we hit the highlights. Obviously, A&M being the big one, which will again possibly wrap up tomorrow, and then see what U of H does for sure.
I hope so.
Those will be interesting.
Yeah,
and U of H. I mean, when they're good, it's better. So not necessarily a U of H, fan per se, but it's good for the town of Houston when U of H is rolling.
They've been trying to get in the Big 12 for 15 years, and congratulations, you went 4-8.
Yeah.
So they need to find someone that's going to stay there, and that's going to same thing, on a smaller scale, galvanize the players, galvanize the fan base, find a way to. You don't have to go far for recruits. You don't have to compete against A&M and Texas for players. You need to compete against the Baylors and TCUs and Techs, and there's a ton of talent in a 30-mile radius around.
They don't have to go far. They don't have to go far to compete. No, I agree. Yeah. And the money, the NIL. I mean, there's endless opportunities in Houston. For God's sake, what is it? The 5th largest city in the nation. There should be quality football there. So
I agree.
All right, so let's transition to playoff scenarios. So as we see going into championship week, you've got Georgia, Michigan beat Ohio State.
What a game!
Yeah, it was a
Good
good
game.
game. Yeah. You got Florida State, who survived. Does not look good with their backup quarterback.
No, they don't.
Washington and Oregon play each other. They played previously, and Washington survived and beat them at home. Now they play in the Pac-12 championship, the last game of the Pac-12 ever. And it's two teams that look in different. Everyone's assuming Oregon's going to just smoke them. I'd be careful. I think Oregon's playing really well, but Washington is not. Washington's for real, and
They are.
just like Oregon. Washington's got has got a ball coach too. Two great. I think it's interesting. You got two fifth and 6 year quarterbacks playing. That makes a difference. That'll be a great game.
Huge.
I'm not so sure. I would say Oregon's going to run away with that. And then you have Louisville playing Florida State with their backup in the ACC. Then you have Oklahoma State surviving against a bad BYU team to keep OU out of the championship game to play Texas, who's 11-1.
Unbelievable.
That game
was unbelievable too.
That game was nuts.
There was some great football yesterday. So championship week's going to be fun. So thoughts here. Let me give you my first most likely scenario. I think you're going to see Georgia beat Alabama. I think you're going to see Michigan obviously roll over Iowa. Divisions, whatever. I think Oregon and Washington is going to be a better game than people think. However, I think the winner will be in. I think the game to watch will be Florida State with their backup quarterback versus Louisville. I just don't think Florida State can generate the offense that they could previously. So I think it'll be a close game. It can go either way. And then I think you're going to have Texas versus Oklahoma State. And if Texas shows up, which I think they will, I think they understand what's in front of them. I think they're going to take care of Oklahoma State. It might be close for a while. Again, Gundy can pull off magic. He's done it before.
Yeah.
However, I think this is a pretty focused Texas team. I took my oldest to the game against Tech, and that was just a massacre.
That was.
It could have been way worse, honestly. So if Florida State. So my question is, if Florida State wins, they're undefeated.
Right.
They're in. Then if Oregon wins, they have one loss. They avenge the loss they had earlier in the year to Washington. And then you have Texas if they win with one loss. Now, for the entire time, Oregon has been ahead of Texas in the poll in the college football polls. My question is criteria, and again, the new poll comes out Tuesday. Criteria says conference championships is number 1. Head-to-head is number 2. Common opponents is number 3. So Oregon and Texas would both be conference champions. They did not play each other. Common opponent is Texas Tech. Thoughts?
Do they even
Good
go
luck.
by? Do they? Yeah, I don't. This is why my real thoughts are we should go to 12 teams and not have to worry about this debate anymore. How about that?
Yeah.
So
you're right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Oregon. I mean, it's a guess. It's a guess.
It's not even a guess. You're trying to be like. You're trying to read the future of what these dudes are going to be in their mind what's in their mind when they meet in Dallas,
let me
2
try
weeks.
to let me try to say what we know. They have had Oregon ahead of Texas
Right.
the whole time. Now, there is a new thing out Tuesday, but Oregon didn't lose, so strength of schedule favors Texas, which is, by the way, not in the top 3 things they look at, but it does significantly favor Texas. However, Oregon could avenge their only loss, which would be to Washington. And common opponent is Texas Tech. 38-30, early in the year, week 2.
Sure.
Oregon beat Tech. Texas, 2 days ago, beat Tech 57-7, and it could have been 80-7. So those are all facts. There's no bias there. That's all factual things that happened.
If you took the names off, because obviously I prefer Texas over Oregon, or any Pac-12 team for that matter. If you take the names off and you do what you're saying, well, then Texas should be ahead of them. But why aren't they up to this point? Because they value Washington's loss
13 dudes, yeah,
more than they value Oklahoma.
Which Washington's loss is a better loss than Oklahoma's.
So at that point in time, there's some sort of reasoning and saying, okay, between Texas and Oregon, that combination, they're saying, okay, Oregon's better. So does the Texas Tech game, is that the thing? Is that the kicker in the whole thing?
We'll find out Tuesday.
I know. Let me ask you this. Do y'all see any, and this is off the grid a little bit, is there any way Ohio State makes it in?
No, unless there's massive chaos, but no.
Okay.
Because number one criteria by this committee is conference championships.
Right. So I don't think so either. I mean, unless Florida State were to lose.
Sure, but I got one for you.
That could crack the door. But so let me ask you this though: do you think who's the better team? Do you think Ohio State, Texas, or Oregon? If you put those 3 in a pot, which one of those 3 teams are better? Because you're saying the same thing. I mean, I get you're not winning your conference, which means everything, but
I think Oregon and Texas beat Ohio State.
Really?
I do. Yeah.
I don't think Oregon does, but
yeah, that's fair. I mean, we all have our opinions, right?
Yeah. I mean, but again, until they line up, I just watched that game, and if Michigan's the best team in the nation, Ohio State is in Michigan and down to the last drive, and it's not like they were smoked.
So this is my take on that. That's a good point, and I want to talk about something about Florida State. I think Michigan's really good.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with Michigan and Ohio State, for that matter, is they don't play anyone outside the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is such a muddied run, big tough guys, slow paced game. I like if you told me right now, I'll take Florida State out of it because they have the backup quarterback, which that's what I'll get into here in a minute. Of the teams that are likely to be in the playoff, as a Texas fan, who would you want to play between Georgia, Oregon, Michigan? You know who I'm taking for Texas?
Oregon.
I'm taking Oregon too. You're saying Michigan.
I'm saying Michigan. Michigan is the best matchup for Texas.
So
because Texas has 2 dudes at defensive tackle that will control that run game, and I'm not convinced Michigan can throw enough on Texas. Oregon can spread Texas out, and I just think Georgia's the best team talent wise, right?
Right.
I mean, if you told me
yeah.
right now, Christian, you get a pick between those three, I'm taking Michigan for Texas all day, round one, all day.
Well, and to bolster your case there, see last year TCU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, so I get what you're
Michigan
saying.
doesn't see a spread. Like Texas would spread them out, their defense, and let the athletes. Texas is faster than Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan pound for pound in the offensive line. See, that's the thing about their offensive line. It gets neutralized by the two best defensive tackles in the country.
It would be it'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
It would.
I feel as though it's almost impossible. And I don't, again, we are literally trying to see into the future of what these guys are going to say. But I mean, like, there's, and I want to say this without putting a Homer hat on. Like, but
yeah, because I'm about to do the same thing, Jordan. I'm about to ask the same thing.
Because I will say this, like, I've watched these Texas games and I've enjoyed. They're great. I mean, listen, Texas has a fantastic squad and they are a good football team most of the time. But let's be real, we are a boneheaded Kansas State play away,
Sure.
and a possible flubbed spot call against Houston away from, I mean, not having this conversation at all.
Hold on. Let me say something. Let me add something. You're correct.
Yeah, but we're having it. But they won.
They won. You're correct. That was a game and a half of their backup quarterback.
Correct. Yeah,
I mean, just
I totally
understand.
agree.
Florida State's feeling this right now, right? So just
Yeah.
understand the backup quarterback played the whole K-State game and half of the UH game. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there was backup quarterback stuff. But there's a lot of teams that have their backup quarterback that do not survive those games.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean,
good point.
Your starters played against OU.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not all backup.
No, I mean,
but the
Alabama starter played at home against Texas.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like you can do this.
We can do this all day.
Yeah. Here's my question. Here's my question for you. I'm going to take my Homer hat off. Let's say Florida State wins, squeaks out Louisville, or wins by one score, 7-3, whatever. They win. How many people in this country want to see Florida State and their backup quarterback versus Georgia?
Right. Well, and I agree. You're on what I was going to bring up. Is Florida State one of the best four teams in the country? Which doesn't always make. That's not what the college football playoffs
That's not what
are.
The question is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the top. The best four don't always make it there,
which is utter nonsense. But
which is a little annoying. It's annoying, but there's also, I mean, you could say that about the NFL playoffs. You could say that about Major League Baseball playoffs. I mean, they just maybe have met in the whatever semifinal.
But do you know what Georgia will do to Florida State?
Eat their children.
Yeah, I think it's going to be
it'll be so bad. And I'm not saying they wouldn't do that against Texas, but at least Texas have a starting quarterback. And
well,
the one thing that Texas has proven is the defensive tackles can control the run game. And if you can stop the run and make a team one-dimensional, you got a shot. You got a shot.
Well, so let's talk to me about some chaos. Let's talk chaos. What kind of chaos, or what are the applications of some chaos?
Let's start with this one. Let's start with Alabama winning.
Yep, right. That's where I was going to start first too.
Okay, so Alabama,
which by the way, very well could happen.
Sure,
you bet.
Sure,
all bets are off.
I mean,
all bets are off.
I mean, this is why it's so I mean, that game yesterday, the Auburn had, I mean, they just didn't want to win. I mean, tell me you don't want to win without telling me you don't want to win. I mean, you had
God,
whatever.
what a
That's
freaking game! What a
yeah,
game there.
that's a whole podcast in itself. But
Good
okay, so
Lord.
Alabama wins. Is Georgia
Okay.
in? Is Georgia guaranteed a spot?
No, not this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not this year.
Because of not winning their conference.
Correct. Now
So,
depends on
if
whether chaos.
Oklahoma
Depends on
State
whether
Okay.
chaos
wins.
happens.
If
So,
Oklahoma
yeah,
State
so-
wins,
Let's say the worst case scenario, right? Oklahoma State wins, Florida State loses, and whatever. Oregon wins.
Okay, hold on. Let's go one at a time. So Bama wins. Okay.
Okay.
So
Oklahoma
Bama,
State wins.
if chaos happens and that's the case, then Bama's in.
a one-loss SEC Bama champion is in.
Is in.
100. If Bama wins, they're in. I agree.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
But now I'm asking about if Georgia sneaks in, if Oklahoma State wins, if Oregon wins, if Florida State loses.
Hold on.
All of the
So if Oregon wins, I think they're in.
okay.
Not saying they should be, but they're in.
Who's in?
Okay. If Oregon
Oregon.
wins.
If Oregon wins,
Yes.
Oregon is in.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not saying I
you
agree
got
with it.
Yeah, you got Alabama, you got Oregon in.
Regardless of the anything.
No, but Bama winning, I think they're in. Okay.
Okay.
Let's not talk about Iowa winning because it ain't gonna happen.
No.
No.
Of course.
No.
There's no shot.
Okay, so Michigan's in.
Right.
Okay, so Texas is out because they lost to Oklahoma State.
Florida State's out. They lost.
Okay, so you're saying Florida State lost. Then
So
Georgia's
this is
in.
just all. Yeah, Georgia's
Then
in
Georgia.
over
right?
over Louisville for sure.
Yeah. Well, no, Louisville's two
Sure.
losses. They're not in.
And Oklahoma State has 3 losses, right?
Yeah, they're not in. No,
They're not
so
in.
it's Georgia.
But
Because
so
I
it's-
take Georgia. I take Georgia over Ohio State
right.
because
And
Georgia's
so
one
that-
loss
those-
in the championship games to Alabama.
Right. Right.
You're
Yeah.
kind of
and
back to
so,
square one. You're kind of back to square one, really.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, Georgia losing again. It sucks because
Let's do one better. Let's do one better, Neil. Bama wins.
Okay.
Oregon wins. Michigan wins. All like, I mean, that all very well could happen, right? Now you have Ohio State. Let's say
Texas
Texas
and Georgia.
wins. Texas, Georgia,
And Washington.
and Washington.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's when it get that is 4 teams with 1 loss.
Yeah.
And you go with the conference winner. You
Mm-hmm.
have to.
You have
You
to.
have to go. And so you would have Georgia out potentially, right? So you
Well,
have
hold on.
Georgia out.
Hold on. You're right in that. I agree. But if Florida State wins, and you have those 4 teams with 1 loss, are you going to tell me you're going to choose Florida State, the ACC champion in the worst conference, over one of those 4 schools?
If that's your criteria, you betcha.
No.
You bet.
Well,
You better.
So you're saying you would take an undefeated Florida State with a backup quarterback over Texas, conference champ, with 1 loss?
Oh. Well, wait. Because you've already got Alabama,
But
you've got
In
Oregon.
Michigan,
Michigan.
and now,
Yeah.
oh man, Jesus. Maybe we should just go
Yeah.
to 12 teams.
Because
How many?
you're
Yeah.
So you're sitting there saying there's I mean, golly, Texas and Georgia all over again. I mean, the last time Texas and Georgia played, I mean,
Yeah.
you could
Two
potentially see
2 totally different
Oof.
teams, but yes. Texas
Well, I'm just
dominated
saying
them.
the matchup is.
Yeah,
I mean, Texas going into the SEC.
I know.
Just the build up and the hype. I mean, that would be a unbelievable matchup.
It's going to be
And
crazy. This weekend is going to be. I've
oh
said this. I said this every week, and it hadn't happened, and it almost like chaos almost happened Saturday.
Almost.
I mean, we were. I mean, we were a
We were close.
Kalen DeBoer calling a reverse on his own 29 at 4th and 1. The nuts on that guy. I mean, you know how easy, Neil. How easy that thing is just to not be executed correctly
Mhm.
oh, crazy.
on your own
Yeah.
29, tied with how much time left? Like what, 2.5 minutes? And he just says,
It's that.
"Yeah, we're gonna run it. Not a power, not a lead, not a play action. We're gonna run a reverse, and we're gonna pitch it back."
Insane.
Insane. So I've said every week it hadn't happened. Is this the weekend chaos happens?
I don't know. Well, let's look at what happens if chalk happens.
Georgia's in, Washington's in,
Michigan.
Michigan's in, Florida State's.
Florida
Then
State's
you have that's what we said. Do you want Florida State with a backup quarterback playing Georgia, or do you want Texas?
Mm.
And they're playing a Louisville team.
Here's what you got. Here's what I got for you. What's Florida State's best win?
Yeah.
LSU.
On a neutral field, week 1.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year. Yeah, I mean, it's
now they haven't lost, but their
They
strength of
haven't
schedule is not going to be anywhere close to what Texas is.
I don't see how you can I don't see how you can pass an undefeated conference champ. I know. I normally
would agree with you, but do we really want to see Florida State in a backup quarterback versus Georgia?
But do we really want to see the state of Florida like lighting themselves on fire because of this?
Yes.
Because that's exactly what would happen. That's what happened.
Yeah, it's.
I would understand it. I really would, but at the same time, I'm like, let's turn this game off with 5 minutes in the first quarter because it's going to be a massacre.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily they were playing a terrible Florida team, or it almost turned into a massacre against a terrible Florida team.
Sure. Well, and we saw TCU get by a Michigan team last year and then get absolutely embarrassed in the national championship game. So again, there's history there showing that they're not necessarily going to put the best teams in there.
Well, it's a different year though. If you think back,
I'm just saying the history is showing that. I mean, you can't tell me last year you really thought TCU was one of the top 4 teams in the nation.
Okay, let's go back. Tell me someone.
I thought they were pretty good.
Tell me who you'd put in there.
Again, I'm taking any SEC. I mean, because who was it? Who were the final 4? Georgia, Michigan,
Ohio State,
Michigan, TCU, and Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't.
The year, you can't compare years. Years are different.
Yeah.
I'm talking
kids.
about. I'm not talking about teams. I'm talking about the selection process. I'm saying.
The selection process, the committee's different every year.
What do you mean by the people who are on the committee? So they get to choose what selection process they want to use.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't dove deep into that, but last year there wasn't 4 undefeated teams or 5 undefeated teams.
But like you said first and foremost is conference champion.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, just because you win your conference, that doesn't mean you're the best. You're one of the best 4 teams.
I agree with that.
And so, and I'm making the case for Florida State is not one of the best 4 teams, but in my mind, the history shows that that's their easy out.
So you're saying I just need to root for Louisville?
Yes. Yes.
I
And
I
I mean,
I, I just can't see how they would put an undefeated conference champion over anybody, to be honest.
I mean, it's I'm saying I wouldn't. That's the one thing I wouldn't raise hell on. Like I would accept that over Oregon because both conference champions both have one loss, right? Strength of schedule, common opponent. So I'm with you. Like I wouldn't be like, oh, that sucks. Texas shouldn't have lost a game, right? The ACC
sure.
is freaking garbage.
Terrible.
Garbage.
Yeah.
It's
You know who,
garbage.
you know who Louisville's best win was? Against Duke.
They're garbage.
Was it against Kentucky? Nope.
No.
Nope. Because Mark
No,
Stoops is a hell of a coach. We should hire him. We should hire him.
Well,
yeah.
So
all right.
It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, it's.
I mean, you knew this was going to happen, as Dorton said earlier. It'd be cool if we would expand to 12.
We should.
This is, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but we will for a little bit. Like, there's really people out there that are against expanding to 12.
Dumb.
How? You have an example sitting right in front of you.
Yeah.
Do I think Penn State can beat Georgia? Hell no. But that's not who they would be up against. They would be up against Texas or Washington or I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to go. Oh, Missouri. You're telling me Penn State can't beat Missouri for round one? Hell yes, they can.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well,
that's the thing. And on the campus games, that 5 through 12 matchups.
Yeah.
Like, the people that are out there saying the 12, I mean, it keeps more people.
That's insane.
It really is. Like, I can't fathom. I hear it and I listen to some of it on college sports radio, Sirius XM. I'm like, what?
It's insane.
If you watched college football this weekend and you don't want more competitive, I mean, just playoff atmosphere games, then you're not a fan. I mean, you're wasting your time.
You know what it showed me, Neil? And I think we talked about this 2 weeks ago. There's 3 games. There's 3 games every year that should be on neutral sites. 3. That's it. 3. Texas OU, Florida Georgia, Army Navy. Just for tradition's sake and what it's been, keep them. Everything else needs to be home and home.
And I wouldn't mind Texas ending. I wouldn't mind Texas going home and home.
It'll never happen.
I know, but can you imagine?
Oh yeah, it'd be cool. But there's too much tradition there.
Sure.
But I'm with you. But I'm just saying, like,
but what happens if one year Texas and Oklahoma match up? And you know what I'm saying? Like,
that could happen.
Yeah.
What about A&M and Texas in the playoff?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, not anytime soon, but maybe someday.
I wasn't going to say that. I was throwing that out there for you there, Dorton.
Yeah.
All right. Dude, I could go on. I could go on forever.
Well, real quick,
anything,
how about
go ahead. Go ahead.
How about Heisman predictions? Is it just Jaden's to take?
No, I don't think so.
Who are they? Who's?
I think if Bo Nix goes off against and revenges his loss, I think he's going to take it.
That's a pretty good selling point for sure.
Yeah.
Who would have thought a few years ago that the Auburn
quarterback
would one day be a Heisman? He was terrible at Auburn.
He really was. You know, that goes back to the COVID stuff, and I think and fit, right? Like his dad played there, but he just wasn't a fit for that system, that offense.
Nope.
He gets away, he goes into a more of a fit and has more time. I mean, the 6-year quarterback is once all these
That's
kids
crazy.
get,
Yeah.
it really is, gets through COVID. That's not going to happen anymore. But
Yeah.
it goes to the fit and just being an experienced guy. I mean, he's been in college he's played 3 more years than Quinn Ewers, who's
Right.
played 2 years at Texas and set a year at Ohio State. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some grown men playing college football.
For sure.
Yeah, that at that age, I mean, just think about the difference in guys playing their sophomore year in college and an NFL player playing his second year. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge gap.
Bo Nix is older than some NFL quarterbacks by like 2 years that are playing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's crazy.
But man, Jaden Daniels is he's good. He's good.
He is good. He's fast. He's good. His receivers make him better. He makes his receivers better. So it's a give and take, right? But I never thought I'd see an LSU defense that bad.
Yeah,
I never thought
sure.
I'd see it.
So if Oregon loses, do you think Nix is done in the Heisman?
Not if he plays really well, but because then you have the argument he made a conference championship game. He's got 2 losses to the same team as opposed to Daniels with 3. Daniels doesn't get a play this weekend. You know, if Penix has a great game, maybe he can get back in.
Yeah.
You know, if you tell me, this is a good discussion. Here we go. Pound for pound, I'll name who I think the best. Not in any order, because we don't have time for that, and it can be debated forever. But if you want to tell me, I'm not talking about just stats. I'm talking about what I've seen. And I'm not saying I'm not going to get this right, but I'm going to say what these eyes have seen in the amount of college football that I get to watch, record, rewatch. I'll tell you who I think the pound for pound are the top players in the country. Screw the Heisman categories. And yes, I'm still going to lean to quarterbacks, but top players in the country. This is going to have a little Texas flavor and a little A&M flavor and a little national flavor. Pound for pound. Jaden Daniels. And I never thought I'd say this because at Arizona State, he was terrible. Not terrible, but he was not good. So he's developed. He's got to be on that list. Bo Nix has to be on that list. Michael Penix has to be on that list. The wide receiver at Washington, Roman Dunze, has to be on that list. He's a freak. You cannot cover that guy. Marvin Harrison has to be on that list.
Yep.
Tavondre Sweat for UT has to be on that list. Edrin Cooper at A&M has to be on that list. Did I say Marvin Harrison Jr. already?
Yep.
He has to be on that list. I mean, I don't see how anyone can argue that those aren't some of the best players. I'm sure there's an offensive lineman I'm missing because I just don't watch it as closely, and I don't believe in publications because they take on past criteria. But you cannot watch Tavondre Sweat every game and say he's not one of the top. He dominates double teams, guards, tackles, centers every single game. And honestly, A&M's Jarian Cooper. Did I say that right, Dorton? Is it Jarian?
I think so.
He is. Yeah, he is a freak. Like he is everywhere the entire time. Dallas Turner at Bama. I mean, but like,
what about
those
Beck? Georgia quarterback?
Yeah, I know you're talking about. He's
surrounded.
Brock Bowers. I did not say Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers at Georgia. I mean, if you're not drafting that guy top 5, I don't know what you're wrong. That dude, he is surrounded, and I need to see a little more. He looks pretty freaking good, but Brock Bowers is definitely on that list because he's a freak. I didn't know they made football players in Napa. He's from Napa, California. That dude is a beast. You know, and I know I'm missing people, but like those are some. I wish it was
Gabriel.
about the.
Gabriel put up some numbers. Gabriel put up some numbers this year, though.
No, screw that guy.
Come on.
No,
take your Homer hat off, and like he put up some numbers.
He did.
You can't tell me he didn't put up numbers.
Okay, let me ask you this question, and this will take my Homer hat off.
All right,
Gabriel Bo Nix, who are you taking?
Bo Nix this season.
Gabriel. No, that's not. I said question. Gabriel.
I'm not
Michael
taking
Penix.
Bo Nix from Auburn. It's not happening.
I'm talking about right now. This conversation is present time. The year of our Lord, 2023. Michael Penix, Dylan Gabriel.
Penix.
Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels. I mean, Gabriel, Jaden Daniels.
I mean, but all these guys have better numbers than Dan.
I know.
I mean, like
I said top players in
Gabriel.
the country. He's not at that. He's just not at that level. He's had some terrible interceptions this year. Terrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I mean, like I think OU as a whole has been, but I mean, in terms of total yardage, I mean, he's 5th in the country passing yards. That's not bad.
Congratulations. I wouldn't put him on, and it's not. If he was at Central Florida, I'd think the same thing. I think he's a system of the offense. I think those other 3 guys are a tier above. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I am. I mean, is there anyone else like other than? I mean, and I know there's people we're missing, especially in the interior of the offensive lines, lines, but those are some dudes,
right?
Dudes.
You know.
Like you flip on the TV, and this is what I do. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, they'll be more than likely on Sundays. I don't know if Nix will be, but the other ones I can see for sure.
Is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we kind of wrap it up with a couple things we got to take care of?
No.
You throwback?
Yep, that's what I'm about to do.
Okay.
So we're doing something a little different. We're gonna get back to the Astros throwbacks. Trust me, we're kind of do a little cycle here. And this week I am going to handle it, and it's going to be someone that kind of fits in the college football theme that most people might not know the whole history here. So before we get to that, obviously our throwback player is sponsored by Victoria Equipment Auction. The good people there, they have an auction on December 2nd. So reach out to them on their website at victoriaequipmentauction.com. Call Clay at 361-935-2444. They will take anything and everything from your equipment needs. As I'm pulling up the read here, Kenny and Kevin Griffin are longtime friends of ours. They do a great job. So victoriaequipmentauction.com. Call them as they sponsor our throwback player of the week. And at Victoria Equipment Auction, their number one goal is to get you the best price for your equipment in a hassle-free and professional manner. Whether you are part of a large corporation looking to clear old equipment out of your inventory, or an individual interested in selling a single piece, Victoria Equipment Auction is ready to go for you. Just drop it off and they will take care of the rest. December 2nd is their quarterly auction. It's going to be a big one. They're very excited what they got going on. Give them a call. Contact Clay again, 361-935-2444, and thank them for sponsoring the Throwback Player of the Week. And this week it's a special one because we are going with the one and only Tom Landry. Yes, the Hall of Fame coach for 29 years of the Dallas Cowboys, who won 2 Super Bowls. However, a lot of people don't know a couple things about Tom Landry. Is he played defensive back and punter at the University of Texas, was all Southwest Conference 2 years, and he is a World War II vet. I believe he flew over Europe during World War II. A couple other things I didn't know about. He was born September 11th, 1924. In 1924.
Wow.
Passed away February 12th, 2000. He's regarded as one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time, one of the greatest coaches of all time. He is the first head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Again, I said earlier, 29 seasons. During his coaching career, Neil, you'll get a kick out of this. I knew this, but I haven't heard it in a long time. He created many new formations and methods, such as the now default defense, the 4-3, used by maturity. I forgot about that.
Yep.
And the flex defense system made famous by the doomsday defense squads he built in his early tenure with the Cowboys. He had 20 consecutive winning seasons. Let's see. I've had another thing pulled up for old touchdown Tom Landry. Won Super Bowl 6 and Super Bowl 12, I believe. That's just off memory. Was All-Pro for the Giants. Was a player coach for the Giants. Didn't know that.
Oh.
He was born in Mission, Texas.
Yeah, I did know that he was from down south. I guess I forgot he was Mission.
Back then, there were 20. He was picked in the 20th round of the NFL draft. First team All-Pro in 1954. Pro Bowl in 1954. I didn't even know they had the Pro Bowl in 1954. Two-time NFL punting yards leader. NFL Coach of the Year in 1966. Obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame and the Ring of Honor. And as I said earlier, he was Southwest Conference for 2 years at Texas as a punter. Oh, interceptions, almost has as many as I had in high school. He had 32. Punting average 41 yards. Career record in the regular season is 250, 162, and 6. Listen to this. What do you think his postseason record is?
Oof.
How many years was he with the head coach?
He has a winning record in the postseason of 20-16. His unit in World War II was the 8th Air Force 493rd Bombardment Group, 860th Bombardment Squadron. In World War II, he was the part of the air war over Europe. That's freaking
stuff. Yeah.
Let me tell you what. That's when you're the man. I mean, that dude is the man.
That's how he was so stoic. Playing little football was nothing. And I wasn't he. And I could be so wrong on this, but I want to say that he and Vince Lombardi were on the same coaching staff together at one point in time, even.
It would have been with the Giants.
So I want to say
he played for the Giants and then coached. Yes, he was defensive coordinator for the Giants.
And I think Vince Lombardi was the offensive coordinator. I mean, that just goes back to.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I want to say that was. I'd have to double check that, but there was seems like I read that somewhere at some point in time.
That would not surprise me. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
knowledgeable and innovators.
Yeah, just real quick, because I can't go through them all. Coaching tree. You must hear this.
Oh yes.
That's the big thing these days is coaching tree, right? Because Mike Elko comes from the Jimbo Fisher coaching tree. Sorry, I had to put that in there. Dick Nolan, Dan Reeves, Mike Ditka, Raymond Berry, John Malkovich, Ron Meyer, Gene Stallings.
We got a little John Malkovich in there.
Yeah, that's the worst of that group. There are a few Super Bowls. There's a few Super Bowls and national championships in that group. And I guarantee you that coaching tree is 3 times that size. Those are just the notables.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a statue outside of Cowboy Stadium for a reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So thought it was cool. It was cool to do something a little different. And then, a lot of people don't know, that he played at UT in the year that I know my dad. I don't know when. I know my dad was born in 48. He was all Southwest Conference at Texas in 47 and 48.
a long
Wow.
time ago.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I remember watching. You talking about Thanksgiving days and games? I mean, I remember going and to Cowboy Stadium and watching Cowboys. And the one I remember specifically was the Seattle Seahawks. Our family would go. I'd probably say 3 or 4 times we went. But I remember the one against the Seahawks and seeing Steve Largent and
Oh yeah.
Steve Largent going out there and being the little guy prolonged my hopes and dreams of going. So below average 5'10" slow guy can make it in the NFL. I got a chance.
5'9", 5'9".
5'10" and a half with shoes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mission, Texas. I mean, that's got to be the greatest, most famous person born out of Mission, Texas.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well,
Yeah, that's pretty
anything-
sweet. That's pretty sweet.
That's cool.
So that's our throwback player, throwback member, and guys, we took a week off for the holidays. Glad to be back. Is there anything else we want to round up real quick before we cut episode 30 as is?
Rock and roll.
No, let's do this.
All right. Like and share, rate and review. We'll be on all the socials. We'll have a little thing out for the fan favorite from Two Gringos Chupacabra that we'll do. And they've been awesome. Once we give the name and the address, they mail that out. Go use Dome 15. And glad we're back for episode 30. I cannot believe I know we've done a little few more than 30, but officially episode 30.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
That's
So,
awesome.
it's going to be a fun week with championship week coming up. So,
Indeed.
guys, with that being said, always and forever, go Stros.
Go Stros.
Go Stros.
Glad I survived the Stoops era.